This episode of the Totally Rad Show is brought to you by Windows Azure. Coming up, horror meets first-person shooter. We check out FEAR or FEAR 3.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Totally Rad Show. We've got a great week for you. Today we are talking about FEAR 3 or FEAR, as Jeff likes to call it.
I like calling it FEAR. That's how they write it, that's how I say it.
Nice.
Tomorrow we're going to talk about Bad Teacher, a new comedy, kind of dark comedy.
That came out
last week.
Came out last week.
Came out mañana.
We're catching up on it. But what comes out Wednesday, the day that you are going to watch that episode, is, as you already know, Transformers 3.
Very cool. I'm sad that I'm not going to be there for that.
Yeah.
You guys have to tell me how it is.
That is a bummer.
Soup
Yeah.
to nuts. I don't know what that means. I mean, I know what it means, but why here? Thursday, we're going to be here. Board games are back. We're going to be talking about the very odd Formula D, which is literally a board game version of race car driving.
Yeah, if you're
stick
if you're
around.
hooked on cars right
Yeah.
now, it's a perfect board game for you. And then we're wrapping the week up with a brand new, really fun game.
Yep.
We're calling Secret Identity.
Dan wants desperately to sing.
Yeah, well, you'll see in the episode.
Amazing.
Thanks, Seth Hatlin, for sending in this background of
Yes.
us agape.
That is what we are. All right, people, let's get into it.
Oh, Comic-Con.
Oh, don't forget, we are at Comic-Con again this year, Friday night of Comic-Con at 8 o'clock in room 7AB. If you've been
8 o'clock?
before, you know how much fun it is. We're going to be
Have even more fun
even
this
more
year.
fun this year. We got some surprises and fun stuff
yes.
coming up. So
Yes.
It's going to be fun. Be there,
if
be
you're
square.
coming to Comic-Con, I don't think you can still get a ticket, but if you already have a ticket,
Be
please
there.
come see us. We'll love to see you there. The video game we're talking about today is FEAR 3, or as I like to call it, FEAR, because that's what they like to put in the logo. And it is, of course, the third game in the FEAR franchise that was started by Monolith Studios. This one is actually developed by Day One, who did the Mech Assault games, Mech Assault 1 and 2. And the story, such that it is, takes place after the events of the second game, where we have the two main characters. The first game had the Point Man as the main character. The second game had Fettel as the main character. And the third game has them both. It's built around this co-op mechanic. You can play, obviously, single player, but both characters are moving through the game world the whole time. So they're basically trying to figure out what the deal is with Alma, their crazy psycho horror film mom, and trying to figure out their place in all that story, as well as dealing with basically the zombie apocalypse that's happening around them. So as you probably noticed, Alex is absent. He's on vacation in France, so we'll say bonjour to Alex. And we have an awesome replacement for Alex today. Steve Holmes is here. He's a buddy of ours. He is an actual video game designer for a company that we won't mention, but rest assured is a AAA franchise that you all know and love. So welcome, Steve.
Thank you very much.
And I'd love to hear your thoughts on FEAR 3, especially coming from the fact that you're a person who designs levels, and I think the level design in this franchise was always something that was very interesting. The first game was lauded for great AI and fun firefights. I know you're a fan of the first game.
I am, actually. I enjoyed FEAR 1 a lot. There was a lot of hype for it when it came out, and I think they did a good job of kind of, maintaining the hype and then releasing the game, and then everyone was talking about it, and I think FEAR 1 lived up to the hype. I actually made like a little fan movie of it and stuff.
I was telling Jeff, I remember that. I remember you showing me that.
Yeah, I put together this cool fight montage with this music. It was pretty cool. The AI was one of the the big features of the first one, and
Slow-mo, of
yes,
course.
I love the slow-mo stuff. There's no shooting guys in the face with a shotgun in slow motion. It's one of those things that never gets old ever. I don't care how good or bad the game is. But I played part of 2. I didn't finish 2, and I played a big chunk of 3. And I don't know, the AI in 3, I thought it felt different than the first one, and I wasn't sure if it was because the AI itself was different, or because of the presentation of the AI, in that in the first one there was a lot of mystery about the AI because they didn't talk that much, and so you were always kind of wondering about them. You know what I mean? I always think it's cool when like your friendlies talk about the AI, like, oh my God, they're coming, and where did they go? As opposed to the AI themselves talking all the time, which is what the AI in Fear 3 does, constantly announcing what they're doing, like, oh, talking about the player, like, he's over there, he's by the steps, I'm running, I'm taking cover, I'm throwing a grenade, and it's like,
it's funny, it's true.
I had an issue with that, and I was thinking to myself, if this AI was identical to how it is, and they didn't say anything, would my opinion of it change? And I think it probably would have seemed a lot better. So I kind of had an issue with that, but the behavior itself was, it was cool, Other things, well, what I liked how the game looked. I really liked the story. I liked both brothers together, and the settings were cool. I always like when I find myself in a setting in a shooter that's kind of unique, which is really hard to do these days. And there was some settings that I didn't remember being in other shooters, big stores and that kind of thing. So that was cool. There was a first-person cover mechanic that they added. I don't remember. Was that in 2?
No, it's very similar to Killzone, I would say. It's that sort of like stick to cover, and then you can lean around and peek.
I always like when developers try to do new things, you know what I mean? But it's I don't know. It got me thinking a lot about, okay, good idea versus execution, you know what I mean? And I think a good idea it's not enough, I always say, like, my dream game that I want to make is called Good Guys versus Bad Guys, but it's amazingly executed. You know what I mean? Because if that's the case, like, if that game exists, like, it's totally cool. You can have guys in all white suits, guys in all black suits, but if it's an amazingly well-executed game on every level, like tech, AI, combat, guns, movement, field, level design, story, dialogue, then it's amazing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, I kind of think that execution is greater than, like, the idea that you're executing. And this Fear 3 kind of got me thinking about that, because the cover mechanically, I really tried to use it in the way that it seemed that they intend for it to be used. Like hold this button. I played it on PC, by the way, and so I'm like holding a button and I'm toggling aim down the sights to pop up and stuff. But like kind of getting out of cover requires a button push, and that kind of like introduced an additional step that kind of interrupted the flow of the combat. And then whenever I got shot, there was like blood, a lot of blood that was kind of like, a little bit intrusive for me. I mean, I like the blood when I'm shooting guys. I'm a fan of gore in shooters, but it's like when I'm getting shot, it was like...
Yeah, you're playing through a shade of red constantly almost in this game.
It's not okay.
So as far as in the franchise, you feel like this might be the...
Well, I don't know where it ranks with. I would say it's a little better than 2. Okay. I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed 2. I still think 1 is the one for this franchise.
Dan, you and I played co-op through the whole thing, which is, it seems to me, where the game wants you to be, because you can play through single player, and then once you beat a level, it unlocks playing it as Fettel. And you played almost all of it as Fettel originally because we were playing co-op, which is a completely different dynamic, right? You can possess people and have all these kind of psycho powers rather than being just a pure military shooter guy.
Yeah, I played the first couple hours as a soldier. I mean, as his point man or whatever, but in that normal standard thing, and I did enjoy that. I was reminded immediately when I picked up the controller that I do love. I mean, slow motion you can put in any game. It's not gimmicky. I mean, slow motion should be as ubiquitous as cover in games, because it's always awesome.
Well, it's funny, like when the first Fear came out and Max Payne, and it seems like there was a period there where every game had it. But then it sort of hasn't stuck around, except for in this franchise.
And it's awesome. It is so awesome because not only is it cool looking, it's also helpful as a gameplay mechanic. So it's sort of a tool. Anyway, I enjoyed playing as a soldier, and when I first got my hands on when we played co-op, I was a little bit remiss that, I'm having a less than experience than you as the soldier. I was like, I could only shoot, like, basically what you do is you have, you shoot plasma at people, and you have unlimited amounts of that. It's weaker than a gun, but you have unlimited amounts of it. And then you can possess people. You have to be at a certain distance from them. As soon as you possess someone, you are them until your meter runs out, which you fill up after. When you kill people, you collect their blood clots. So it's not like there is a game mode in the multiplayer where you can constantly possess. You can leap from body to body to body. It's not that. You possess someone, you are them. So you do kind of get that soldiery experience. You get that traditional Fear experience.
But
As playing this character?
possessing different soldiers, was it a different experience? Soldiers, because you can
Just
possess
they're
like
different
cooler
weapons.
guys.
Yeah, I mean, just like the guy was shooting it. That happened once. The
Yeah.
dude was like, he's shooting missiles at us, and I was like, I'm good at possess him. It's all good. And then I possessed him, and then I had the missiles. You know. I mean, and then I really uncovered. The game doesn't really explain to you all your powers. And then there was this awesome thing where I realized, oh, I can sort of like suppress someone, but before you possess them, you can suppress them, and then I could like squeeze my hand and they explode.
Oh, nice.
But that was basically a melee kill. I had to be right up in front of them. So there was an interesting balance to his powers versus what you can do as the traditional point man soldier type, and I did enjoy it. I think it's a great looking game, and I like Steve. I really loved the different milieu. I loved I'm in the suburbs, I'm in a city, I'm in the big Ralph's or
The store, the Best
Costco,
Buy,
whatever.
the
You know?
TVs, the
Yeah,
TVs
that was
were
a
cool
cool
from a
moment.
lighting
Section was-
standpoint.
yeah.
It was like,
Totally,
it was cool.
totally. So that I really dug. The story I could feel was well done. I didn't love it. I did have a problem with the level design in that Jeff and I constantly, and I'm curious about your experience, Steve, but we constantly butted up against not knowing where to go. Like it was.
Oh, there's a ladder around this corner that we could easily miss and not know that that's the only way out of this.
Yeah.
And by ladder, you mean like radio tower or something?
Yeah,
It's one of those,
yeah.
like something that's climbable that's not a ladder.
I think it was the thing where, like, there's like doors. Sometimes you'd walk up to a door and it was completely uninteractable. Sometimes you walk up a door and there'd be a title on the screen that said locked. Sometimes you'd walk up a door and said, no, you can go through that door. There was no like reoccurring thing in the game that's set up where like this is how you interact with the world. At any level, there was like ladders were never a thing until one level. Now ladders are a thing that you do. Doors were never the thing until now doors are a thing you can do. So
Yeah, it's interesting. I felt, in contrast to both of you guys, I felt like the story is the weakest part of this game. And I loved the story in the first two games because I really felt like I was part of this weird mix between Die Hard and some sort of The Ring, horror movie. Whereas this one, it felt like, yeah, we're trying to figure out these two brothers' plight, but at no point did any of the levels have any bearing to that. It felt like, yeah, we're in the suburbs because that's a cool level. Yeah, we're in this Costco because that's a cool level. But why were we there? It didn't make any sense. We get in a helicopter and we crash in this place, and it's just completely arbitrary feeling to me. And then the last level and the ultimate resolution of that, it seemed so arbitrary and uninteresting, and it just felt flat. I loved the experience of playing co-op, and I agree with you guys. Being slow motion, fun firefights. This series has always had good firefights, and I felt like I was still participating in really fun firefights. And the levels seem to all have places where we could get flanked, and they could be behind us, and I never felt safe. The thing neither of you guys mentioned that I think is my favorite part of this game is the meta game that's constantly happening. You're getting points for doing certain things, and it's keeping track of whether or not you use a certain gun for kills, or you're behind cover for a certain amount of time. And then at the end of each level, it gives you your stats based on that. And most games, it would sort of accumulate that over time. But in this game, each level, it resets those things. So you can accomplish those tasks again.
I noticed that.
You didn't like that?
Well, what I noticed was that getting the same achievement like in level after level, like, oh, you spent X amount of seconds in cover, or you shot so many headshots, and
I was wondering why I kept getting that. I didn't realize that it was resetting itself. I was like, I think I got it, but I must have done it. It must be a little bit different. I don't
think it's
realize.
conducive to co-op because replayability. Oh, let's play this level now. Let's switch roles, and so I'll try to get all the achievements, etc. But I noticed that it was kind of redundant challenges, and I think I probably would have preferred more long-term, persistent challenges.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's interesting too. At the very end of the game, especially in co-op, those all of a sudden become really important, and it decides. Not to spoil anything, but it decides a story point based on all those numbers. And in a weird way, we're like, oh, I probably would have paid more attention had I known. So it's a very mixed bag. As big of a fan I am of this series as I am of the series, I don't think that this one lives up to either of the previous two for me, and it's really short. The multiplayer is pretty interesting. I know you had a chance to check out.
I had a chance to try the multiplayer, and I was not able
you didn't even get into
I tried to get into a
games,
couple games, and there weren't any available.
Yeah, I forgot. We tried a little of it. I think the multiplayer, to their credit, is different from anything anybody else is doing, and I like that. They're throwing new things into the mix. There's a mode called Fucking Run, where you just have to keep going forward, and there's a wall of death that's coming after you. That's kind of rad. And there's some soul possession stuff in the multiplayer. I just like the fact that they're trying something different that isn't just same old deathmatch.
Yes.
Steve, you said something that I thought was really interesting. I'm curious in your perspective as a designer. You mentioned the AI not being less than in the first game because we can hear what they are. But do you think that the AI announcing what they're doing was a balance thing, where it was too difficult for people testing it, so they said, okay, let's let them have them explain they're throwing a grenade at you now. They're doing, you know what I mean?
I don't think that the AI was an attempt to help the player. I mean, I suppose it does. It depends on your skill level.
Yeah.
But there was never any point where I felt like well informed, which begs the question: why would your enemy inform you what they're doing? I mean, sure, for balance reasons maybe, but they just sounded like a bunch of chatty Cathys to me. And it's like in games like this, it's like, okay, the 2 or 3 voice actors that they get, so everyone sounds like I'm fighting a bunch of twins, and and it's the thing. It's like it should leave it to mystery, and so the player fills the gaps in their head. Like, oh, these guys are really badass, and instead of like constantly talking, it's just,
and it's a shame because I felt like the first game, and less so in the second game. And the first game is really a horror game, and this game just has horror elements. It's not. There's no scares.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what we thought of Fear 3. Thanks for joining us, Steve.
All right, everybody, be sure to stick around for this day in Rad history. But first, we want to thank our sponsors, Windows Azure. Windows Azure, people, is the cloud platform for developers that lets you focus on building and running apps, not infrastructure. It has scalable pay-as-you-go capacity, meaning developers don't have to wait to develop. Get faster speed to market and generate and meet instant, immediate demand. You rent what you want, when you want.
That's what I like to do.
I wish I could do that, like only rent my house when I'm going to sleep.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
And then when I'm out,
I'm not renting it
because I'm not in it. It's a rich platform with built-in connectivity and development tools, meaning that you can focus on business logic and get a head start on time to market. With flexible deployment, it gives you the ability to run Windows Azure on your own systems. With Windows Azure Burst Capacity, you can deploy with confidence, running your apps where and when it makes sense without worrying about overwhelming systems. To learn more about everything you need to know to start developing with Windows Azure, check out Microsoft.com/cloud/Windows Azure.
Awesome.
That's it, right? Yeah. You got it. Nailed. Nailed. Giggles McGinnis over here. Nailed it.
All right.
All right, we'll see you.
Mañana.
Don't miss tomorrow for our review of Bad Teacher.
Today is June 27th. On this day in Rad history, back in 1972, Atari is established, and video games, as we know it, were thrust on our
Pong
faces.
in the arcade, I believe they.
Yeah, the first arcade cabinet. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, dude, these guys are crazy. If you hear some of the stories of them, it was like
Palo Alto and-
it was like I don't know if it was Palo Alto. Actually, I have to look that up. It was like jacuzzis, women drinking.
yeah.
Wow.
Because they were like
That would make a
nerds
great
that
Boogie
made
Nights.
a bunch of
Happens
movies.
a lot, actually.
Oh,
It's like
yeah.
a social network, but
It's the Ferraris happen, and then the people.
But in 1972, I mean, this is
Ferraris.
crazy.
That's
And
crazy.
of
The
course,
first video game, 1972.
and then of course,
30.
the Atari
Well, it's not the first
2600.
video game,
Yeah,
the
but then
first
the
arcade game.
Atari 2600 coming to our houses. I mean, that was like the beginning of
In the home.
yeah.
30-year anniversary coming up
Amazing.
here
Happy
for Atari
anniversary.
next year.
Just that you used your toes, bro.
And thank you very much at Jerry Melulio.
Jeremy Malou.